impurification or a damage of a vessel.
Josephus writes that he saw two lamps being handed over by a priest to the Romans. Was one the genuine candelabra and one a copy? Or were both copies? If the Romans took a copy, what happened to the true lamp? Could it have been hidden before the Romans came? Some archaeologists believe the treasures are still around the temple area.
We dug it near the temple area, and we have the tunnels and channels and underground structures. So who knows? Maybe in one of the places there at the temple area, or in the underground structures close to the temple area, part of the treasures will still be there.
Jewish traditionalists agree with this. They believe a secret hiding place was built for the treasures. Supported by Talmudic commentaries, they argue that many of the treasures and the menorah are still hidden on the Temple Mount.
Rabbi Emek HaMelech,
who was a pupil of Rabbi Ari, discusses this point in one of his books. He lists all the objects of the temple, 12,000 general ornaments, 10,000 harps, smaller vessels, the robes of the priests, and argues that they're all hidden under the sanctuary at 3 levels below the Temple Mount.
The ability to explore this theory was impossible in the centuries between Crusader and modern Turkish rule. Jerusalem was neglected and forgotten by the world. All this changed in 1867 when a British team of engineers made the first scientific survey of the temple area. Now, under the direction of Captain Charles Warren, tunnels and rooms were opened that had been blocked for centuries. Today, Warren's work is being continued as excavations reveal ancient layers from biblical to Turkish times around the Temple Mount. Archaeologists like Ronnie Reich are bringing a new light to the history of the area. How have the new possibilities of exploration affected the treasure hunters? In 1910, a British explorer, Captain Montague Parker, using strange mystic theories, was the first to look for the treasures.
Montague Parker came to Jerusalem, paid off, bribed, if you like, several of the guards of the mosques, the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and started to dig inside that area, probably the only one who ever has done it. His target was to look for those treasures which this Juvaelius told him, Holy Ark or other treasures of the ancient temple, the Solomonic temple.
Parker's quest ended in empty-handed chaos, causing cynics to question the whole hunt.
Your chances to win the lottery are greater than finding the temple treasures hidden under the Temple Mount.
If many mystics and Orthodox Jews fervently believe that the treasures are still under the Temple Mount, others believe equally strongly that the treasures were smuggled out of the temple before the Romans destroyed it via the maze of tunnels and drainage canals under the temple. Many of these blocked tunnels have been opened up by archaeologists. We can imagine priests stumbling along here with the treasures, then seeking a gap through the Roman lines. But where could they take the treasures? Where could they hide them in safety? Maybe in the Judean desert, only an hour from Jerusalem. This area is as old as time. It was here that the walls of Jericho fell, and here that God rained down fire on Sodom and Gomorrah. The area is harsh, barren, forbidding. Here one could hide anything and have the desert preserve it forever. If the temple treasures were hidden here, reason suggests a map would have been left behind. The Dead Sea Scrolls were found at this spot, Qumran in the Judean desert, in 1947. Suddenly, in 1952, two new manuscripts turned up in the same location. Unlike the other scrolls, they were written on rolled copper, and that was to be their name, the Copper Scrolls. Because of fragility, they were sent to England's Manchester College of Technology. There, a sensitive electric saw cut through the scrolls layer by layer. The first scholars to read the scrolls made an astonishing discovery. The scrolls listed 64 hiding places of silver and gold.
What it is, I mean, sounds like something out of, a Walt Disney or Steven Spielberg production, but it's a document that tells you where to find buried treasure. And we're talking the real stuff here, gold, silver, the stuff that would make us all rich.
An astonishing story, but were the scrolls genuine or fake? The scrolls were so strange that the archaeologists weren't sure what they had really found.
The copper scroll is one of the most enigmatic things I've ever encountered in my life. Whatever angle you take to look at it, it is an absolute enigma as far as we can understand it. On the one hand, are the real treasures? Are they speaking about real treasures? So if you are hiding real treasures, you don't proclaim it from a very, very large scale notice.
Some of the early researchers also thought it fake. Today, scholars are moving in the other direction. They believe the scrolls refer to genuine 2,000-year-old treasures.
My own opinion is that they're real, or were real. I don't know if they're still around. But my colleague Kyle McCarter at Johns Hopkins said at one time, and I always thought it was very, very astute, he says, this is such an infernally dull document that if it were imaginary, you'd think they would make it a little more exciting. The fact is, it just is treasure as presented to you by a certified public accountant.
The amounts talked about in the scrolls are enormous. One scholar sets the treasures at 65 tons of silver and 8 tons of gold. But where was it all from? The huge list clearly points to a communal treasury. 2,000 years ago, there was only one place that fitted that description: the temple. It seems that we have a document talking about temple treasures, or tithes, probably hidden in anticipation of the Roman siege of Jerusalem. But who would have hidden the treasures and written the scrolls? Probably the zealots who defended Jerusalem and guarded the passes to the Dead Sea, all areas mentioned as treasure locations. Altogether, we have fiery ingredients for stirring the imagination, especially of treasure hunters. But there are problems. The scrolls are written in code. Names are vague. Places are named, but their locations are obscure. And the key to unlock the scrolls is evidently held in another scroll. Even so, the four main locations for the treasures seem clearly to lie